Situational awareness is the ability to perceive something that happened, comprehend the significance of what it was, and then anticipate what's going to happen next as a result. And as a pilot, you're expected to have constant situational awareness of everything, from monitoring your engine, the weather, traffic in the area. It's all key to safe flying. But as a low hour or student pilot, the speed in which your situational awareness translates into identifying a scenario of conflict and making the appropriate decisions to minimize risks is something that often only comes with practice, time, and experience. So in this video, I'll share with you a couple of moments from my early flying adventures which I found challenged my situational awareness, what my takeaways were, and how it's changed my thinking in flight. Now, a quick disclaimer, I'm not a flight instructor. I put these videos together because I enjoy it, and I think that reflecting on and learning from these early experiences is critical for growth as a pilot. It does mean that sometimes you need to take a decent bite of humble pie and owning up to moments of flying that maybe didn't go quite so well, but it's all with the aim of continual improvement. So in general, this message always feels a little bit like the don't eat the wrapper label put on food, but you know the drill. When in doubt, always consult your CFI first instead of some random guy on YouTube. One of my first solo flights I'd taken after getting my RPC was an early morning flight from Lethbridge. Now, Lethbridge is 780 feet AMSL, meaning circuits are flown at 1,800 feet. The cloud ceiling over the airport was around 2,400 feet and lifting throughout the day, but it was clear skies out over Geelong and Torquay coastline, so I squeezed out from under the cloud base, had my fun in the sun for an hour, and was returning back to Lethbridge. With the plan to overfly the field at 2,300 feet and check the windsock for the active runway, I squeezed back under the cloud layer and made my inbound radio call. Lethbridge traffic, TechNam 8392, 10 miles from the southeast, 2,300, inbound, estimate circuit time, 32 Lethbridge. At this point in time, someone else approaching from the other direction also made a radio call. It's Warrior Alpha Bravo Charlie, 10 miles from the west, 2,300, overflying the field and tracking to the southeast towards Barwon Heads, Lethbridge. So situational awareness kicks in. What's happened? I've announced I'm inbound and someone else has announced they're overflying the field from the west. So what's the significance of it? Well, my plan's to overfly the field, check the windsock, work out which runway to land on. However, if the circuit height's 1,800 feet, then the overfly height's at 2,300 feet. We're at the same altitude. This probably isn't great. And what's going to happen next? So it's around this point where I struggled for some reason. Looking back, I think I was too fixated on the fact that I was inbound to land and was focused on being positioned correctly in the pattern at the right altitude, so I was overanalyzing trying to approach the field from different directions to avoid the conflict. I knew he couldn't climb any higher from the cloud layer, and I shouldn't descend any lower without clarifying which side of the circuit is currently active. So ultimately, this brain teaser I was making didn't need to be carried out for too long, as I soon heard the Warrior back on the radio. TechNam inbound, Warrior Alpha Bravo Charlie. I don't have you in sight, but I can see you on Oz runways. It looks like we're going to cross paths. I'll keep my track to the south of the field. If you can approach from the north, we should be in the clear. And the moment of realization kicked in. This is a classic VFR right of way scenario. So if two aircraft are converging, the aircraft that has the other on the right must give way. But instead of just taking the action to give way, the pilot of the Warrior made the additional request that we use the airfield as a reference point to maneuver around. So in the event that we didn't manage to have visual sight of one another, we could still guarantee safe separation, which I was more than happy to comply with. Looking back on this scenario, I know that I was simply too fixated on the fact that I was inbound to land, what my desired position over the field would be, and I simply couldn't comprehend fast enough the right-of-way rules in place we have to ensure safe separation. So really, my priorities should have been immediately shifted once I identified we were crossing paths to maintain safe separation. Then I could safely join the circuit once we were well and truly clear of each other. This second scenario, I was actually doing my check ride flight for my navigation endorsement. This time we were flying from Lethbridge out to Maryborough Airport. Our track had us passing Ballarat Airport about 6 miles to the east. We're flying at 4,500 feet and we hear a radio call like this come over the CTAF. Ballarat traffic, Cessna Alpha Bravo Charlie, 10 miles from the west, heading west, inbound, circuit, time, 48 Ballarat. Now, it's not uncommon to hear radio calls with errors or details missing in them. There's lots of student pilots out here. This is all part of the learning process, and we've all made the mistake of hitting the button and not having the right words come out. But this one in particular left me with a lot of questions. Was he coming from the west, or was he coming from the east heading west? What altitude was he at? And assuming that he's inbound, he could be descending. But if he was heading from the west to the west, then is he inbound or just planning on overflying the airport? Again, a lot of thoughts going through, and my head now is fully on a swivel just in case he's in fact coming from the east in our direction. So about 2 minutes go by and I spot out the right of my windshield a landing light It's not really moving, but it's slowly getting brighter and larger. This was most likely him, and we're now on a direct converging path with him sitting a little higher than us. So we immediately change course, we turn to the right, we drop a bit of altitude, and once he's passed, we pick up our original track and continue back on to Maryborough. So how was the situational awareness here, and what could I have done different to have a better outcome? Well, ultimately, we knew what was happening. We knew that someone declared at some point in the next 6 minutes they were going to be near or at Ballarat Airport. But the significance of how they were going to get there and what was going to happen based on their trajectory was all a bit of a loss. They didn't necessarily include all the details in their inbound radio call, but I also didn't get on the radio fast enough to ask for any clarification. So really, I was working with an incomplete picture of the scenario at hand. So there's a couple of things I could do next time to avoid this situation. One might be to simply change my track and overfly Ballarat directly and avoid the path of any ascending or descending aircraft that are inbound or transiting through. This way, we'd have a nice fixed point to coordinate safe separation around if there was any conflict. But the other thing really is to be more proactive on the radio. Just asking for the Cessna pilot to confirm their position, or alternatively, I could give my own position report and location, reporting a possible conflict and then getting clarification from that. Overall, this was a really good reminder for me that when assumptions are being made about position details, get on the radio and confirm it. There's no shame in asking for extra information. Now, both of these experiences taught me valuable lessons about maintaining situational awareness, making quick decisions, and I think that reflecting on these scenarios has helped me grow as a pilot. And I find it interesting that on the ground, just looking at the details on paper, it's pretty easy to make the right decisions. But when you're in the air and it's a dynamic environment with lots of other things in motion, the expectation that your situational awareness is going to be as strong in the air as it is on the ground can be a little bit misleading, especially when task saturation starts creeping in. So if you're a low hour or student pilot like me, remember that improving your situational awareness is all part of the journey. It all takes practice, experience, and sometimes eating a little bit of humble pie to recognize areas for improvement. Always keep learning, stay curious, and don't hesitate to seek advice from your instructors when needed. Thank you all for watching, safe flying, and I'll see you in the next one.